You are now listening to Talk Your Jits podcast.
Hello and welcome to Talk Your Jits podcast. This podcast is, as the name implies, all about jiu-jitsu. I'm your host, Lamar Smith, and today's guest is a black belt who trains at Tiger Eye Martial Arts Academy, located in Bunnell, Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, Cedric Tylor. Cedric Tylor.
Yeah.
My apologies on that.
No problem, man. No problem.
But yeah, man, first and foremost, man, I appreciate you coming on and doing the episode with me today.
No, man, thanks for having me. I was stoked when you gave me an invite.
Oh man,
Appreciate
it was definitely my pleasure. I know we talked before. I started this podcast, but when I was getting my list together, I was like, oh man, I forgot somebody, and that's why I text you like, hey, you want to be on? So.
No, yeah, man, it was cool. I love what you're doing. It's always cool to see people just grow from jiu-jitsu and branch out to other different, other things. It's beautiful.
Definitely, man. Definitely. It's been a hell of a ride so far. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. If you want to formally introduce yourself again, by all means. Let's hear about your jiu-jitsu journey.
Yeah, man. Where do I start? Where do I start, man? It hasn't been too long of a journey. Not yet, as long as I plan on putting into it.
Of course.
But it's been a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a fun one.
Wherever you want to start.
Okay. Well, I got introduced to jiu-jitsu. I had a friend of mine. He was a professional boxer, and he would go to a particular boxing gym, and they had jiu-jitsu a part of it. And I wasn't a fan of the boxing at first. A lot of cardio.
Yes.
A lot of running. A lot of
yes.
Running and jump roping wasn't my thing. So when I would go with him, and I'd pay a little drop-in fee to do a couple jiu-jitsu classes, and I probably did like 2 or 3 within 6 months, and that's it. But it kind of, it got my feet wet, and I enjoyed it. But then I started lifting weights. When I was lifting weights, I ended up meeting who became my first coach at the time, Carlos Verona. I saw him doing some weird exercises with the weights, and I just went over to find out what he was doing, and he told me he was doing some exercises to help him with his jiu-jitsu. So I kind of, at the time, I know something about jiu-jitsu, me and my 3 classes.
Total expert at that point.
Yeah, totally. So he invited me to come to, who's my current coach right now, James Smiley, invited me to come to Smiley's place. I went there, and I did an open mat, had a really good time, and from that point on, I just knew I was going to be an MMA fighter. I just knew I was going to be an MMA fighter. So that's all I did. I just trained no gi, and I started my striking journey. But got about 3-4 months in, and then I was having some medical issues. Turned out I was dealing with high blood pressure. So took a year off to, I didn't think I was going to be able to compete or do anything with jiu-jitsu or fighting or anything like that, just because I couldn't get past 2-3 minutes without, throwing up or getting dizzy. It was really bad. So I took a year off, and then I remember sitting down with Carlos. We had become good friends by then, and we, really just started to delve inward. A lot of mental exercises to deal with anxiety and things that would lead to my blood pressure rising while I was training. So we cut out the MMA, we cut out the striking, and we threw a gi on. and just started training gi jiu-jitsu. Like we would go to this academy he had a key to, and we would train. We would watch instructionals,
Mm-hmm.
and then we would drill the instructionals. And the whole time drilling, we would just be focusing on me just being at peace mentally and not getting overly excited. And that's how I fell in love with the gi. And that was I want to say that was around 2010. That's when that happened. 2010, and just been going strong ever since. You know, I didn't even get back into fighting until purple belt. I strictly focused on Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and the gi for a while, probably for a good 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, and that was, that was where it all started. He ended up moving away around 2013. He ended up going to Spain. So then I was like, hey, I want to do this full time. I want to train full time. I want to compete. So I ended up moving down to Daytona, Florida, and training with a fight sports affiliate down in Daytona.
Mm-hmm.
And that opened my eyes up to competition jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And that, yeah, it was a very competitive environment. I believe when I went there, I was a blue belt, and I got there. You know, at the academy I was at previously, I was doing pretty well, but when I got there, man, I couldn't even make it past the warm ups. I was getting spanked by the white belts. And, at first it was very demoralizing, but it was at that time that I really, I had moved down there. I mean, I think when I moved down to Daytona, I was living in Jacksonville, Florida, and I went down there. I went to the Fight Sports affiliate. I met them. I 2 weeks later, I was down there looking for an apartment, and 2 weeks after that, I was moving down there. So within a month, I had decided I was, quitting my job, selling my stuff, and just moving down to train jujitsu. And when I did get down there, and I was having such a hard time, at that level, I really started to question, like, yo, is this really what I want to do? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not, it was very eye opening to what, it could be, and what, real jujitsu, like competition jujitsu was.
Mm-hmm.
Very eye opening. And I had to meet myself. And I remember just showing up. That's all I had to do was just show up. And I got to the point I was getting past the warm ups. And I remember my coach told me, he was like, man, at first I thought you were going to quit, but then I just saw your body was going into shock because you had never done something like this before. And he was right. And it
Mm-hmm.
took me a good 3 months to get on board and to get my body used to that type of training. But once I did, man, it was amazing, very eye opening, and it just showed me what I was capable of. It was awesome.
That was awesome. I mean, I can imagine the feeling of, where you be like, man, is this worth it? Like, am I even good enough to, to do this the way I want to do it? But to be in your shoes when you was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna just pick up everything and just move on this one thing that I've been doing for a little bit. But I mean, that's man, that's a pretty big leap, man. I mean, usually for people like for jobs or stuff like that, you hear them like move to another city or state, but for like for jujitsu, that's real dedication.
It was, man, the journey that I took in order to deal with my blood pressure was very eye opening. I think that was something that hit me maybe earlier than some others. I had to jump in, like I had to like delve into the mental part of it,
Mm-hmm.
and that just showed me the power of what we can do or what our brains can do, especially when we want to accomplish something. Uh, I was able to, I mean, I did a stress test. Um, I did a stress test, and I remember they stopped the stress test when they told me I had high blood pressure, and they stopped the stress test because my blood pressure had got up to like what was it? I want to say it was like what was it? Which one's the big number? The systolic or the systolic? Which one's the one on top or the bottom? You remember?
I should know this because my wife is a medical assistant, but
Oh, no, but man, I remember it was super high. Like
I
I want to
believe it's
say
the
it
top
was
number. Is
the top number is the bigger number. Yeah, and it got to be like 250 over 187 or something like that. And it was yeah,
jeez.
and it was like they stopped it. They were like, "Yo, you're in stroke range." And they didn't understand like what it was. They were like they tested my blood, my lipids, everything. They were like, the only reason we can say you're in fairly decent shape, the only reason it seems you have high blood pressure is because you're African American. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's really what they were telling me.
Right.
So they had no solutions for me, and then they tried to give me some pills, and that stuff put me in a coma. Like
Wow.
I couldn't, yeah, it put me in a coma. I couldn't function. I was sleeping all the time. Uh, it was bad. So I just got off of the medication, and I just told myself, oh, I won't be able to train. But you know, me and Carlos, our journey took us to some really deep places, deep as in mentally. And when I realized that a lot of my blood pressure was being caused mentally by anxiety
Mm-hmm.
and having you know being a perfectionist and having that stress of the perfectionist mind frame on me
Mm-hmm.
where I got to do it right, and if I don't get it right, oh man, I'm stressing out, and that would raise my blood pressure. And just you take that mentality, and I know it. A lot of people in jiu-jitsu have dealt with it or have seen it and faced it and quit. But you take that mentality, that perfectionist mentality, and you put it on you as a white belt and blue belt in jiu-jitsu. I mean, you're just setting yourself up for failure because nothing you do is going to be perfect.
Yeah. It's
And
impossible.
yeah, it's impossible. But when I was able to sit down and delve into it, like I wasn't even told. Like Carlos was asking me questions, and I came to the realization like my blood pressure is probably caused by anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and we sat down. We were on this dock, and we sat down for probably about, like 3 hours, and we were just going back and forth talking, and we came to that realization. So then we came up with a battle plan in order to accomplish that and to lower that, my blood pressure through controlling my anxiety, or not controlling it, but accepting it
Mm-hmm.
and being able to work with it. And that once I got past a 5 minute match, oh my God, my world changed.
Yeah.
My perception on this reality changed, and how much control we actually have over ourselves changed. And I keep that same approach. Even with my fights that I've had, all my MMA fights, I've been in the academy and gyms where people are playing, hardcore, fast tempo music when they're getting ready for fights. And when I'm training for competition or fights, I'm the opposite. I'm listening to like Bob Marley, or some really chill reggae just to relax myself and keep myself in a very zen state.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
I
yeah, man.
I I identify with a lot of the stuff that you said. Obviously being African American male, that's kind of one of the biggest things. High blood pressure, heart problems, diabetes, all this other stuff, and just seeing so many people around me, on medication and just everything under the sun to control these things. When it's like, well, it will help if you was to change like some of your habits. Um, and then especially when it comes to like anxiety and whatnot, because I deal with it. And like when I took my purple belt test, it was a really like rough time, and on top of that, that's when I think my highest, like I guess that was like the most like times I've had like anxiety was around that time, because it was like we just got over COVID. I mean, we just got the bans lifted from COVID. I was working, but I was still, falling behind on everything. My mom was like, she was getting sick at the time. Like, she's gotten sick during that time. And we also had our second child. So it was just a lot in that short little span, because it was like, as soon as March hit, they was already talking about, COVID, starting to, spread to the U.S. and everything else. And they was naming off the cities and states that they're starting to hit. And the week, it was, so our daughter was supposed to be born around, I believe it was like March 25th or some sort like that. But they called my wife and it was like, okay, we need to induce your labor. It's going to, we're going to do it this day, blah, 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 blah. So she ended up being born on the 7th versus the 25th. That day we came home on the 8th. That next week is when shutdown happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they wouldn't let no one in the hospital. Like, when we was there, they was let no one in the hospitals to visit. Only in, if you had an emergency or doctor's appointment, that's the only way you getting in. And then we go home that day. That day, and then that's when like shutdown happened. So, like I said, stress of the new baby, wasn't training and everything else. Came out of that, and then right after that, I tested for my purple belt. And man, I almost died. Like, I mean, not gonna lie, like I almost died. I've never cried so hard, dude. like before, during, and the end of this test, bro. I've never cried so hard, man.
How long was it? How long was the test?
The test. See, so our system is kind of we do a lot. So it's we show so many techniques from top, bottom, side, blah blah blah. We go over our rules and principles, and then we have a form of self-defense portion of our test, and then we have like a sports jiu-jitsu portion of a test too. So it can go from an hour to to 2 to 3 and up, and it was just a lot. It was a lot. So like, we have to, like I said, show all these techniques from all these different positions, and then we have to do self-defense, which for our purple belt test it's 2 one-on-one fights, and it's one one-on-one fight in different positions, and then we have a 2-on-1 fight. So
okay.
Yeah, so it was a lot. And then, like I said, right after that, we had to do two I think it was like two 4-minute rounds. Yeah, 2 4-minute rounds of sports jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
So
do you guys?
No, go ahead.
Do you guys focus a lot on the self-defense aspect? Like, what your type of training? It's always fun for me to get into this, and everybody does it differently at their academy. So, was it? I hear you said 2-on-1 fights and stuff like that. So, how did that work? How does that work?
Yeah. So our instructor, my instructor, Zachary Holston, he follows the Joe Moira system. And it's focused on the martial arts and the self-defense behind it. So during our classes, even our regular classes, we go over self-defense, striking, striking punches from guard, striking, basically everything we do on the test, we rep it throughout the year. So we'll go over, we'll go over that type of stuff. Like, someone's throwing punches at you, throwing kicks at you. If you're on the ground, if it's like they're trying to kick you in the face, punch you while you're on the ground, if they're on their back and stuff like that. So it's definitely a martial art, but we definitely do practice self-defense as well.
Good. That's awesome.
And
that's very important.
Yeah, and it's funny when I hear, I'm like you. It's funny when I hear schools, some schools that don't do that. So y'all don't practice no form of self-defense. If someone's punched you in the face, you don't know how to stop it. But all right, then, do you?
No, yeah, that's very interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting to me, because if you're, in the way I see it and the way I run my academy, if you are here for competition jiu-jitsu and you want to compete, that's awesome. We're going to train hard. We are going to, put you through the rounds and make sure that you can do these rounds back to back to back. The things that competition requires. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to know the rule set. If you're here for self-defense, if you don't want to do competition and you're here for self-defense, just in case something happens,
Mm-hmm.
like you got to be training harder, in my opinion, because the consequences are worse.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like the
Oh yeah.
consequences are worse. Yeah. I always tell my guys, first of all, competition, it's not a fight. It's not a fight. Even MMA, we call it a fight, and earlier I said fight, but it's not really a fight. It's a competition.
Mm-hmm.
You have a referee, you have a doctor, you have your team by,
It's controlled.
it's a controlled environment versus, and there's so many people that won't do a jiu-jitsu competition or an MMA fight, but they'll definitely talk shit at a bar and
Isn't
like
that crazy?
antagonize, yeah, and antagonize like a group of people. And I'm like, dude, you got this all backwards.
For real. Like for real, for real.
Yeah. So I've never understood that, and we talk about that at the academy too. So if you're here for self-defense, even if you're not here for self-defense, it's more than likely, if you get into a combat situation, you will probably use something more than likely you're going to use what you learned at our academy,
Right.
right? Or whatever academy you're at. You're going to use it. Muscle memory is just going to kick in unless you're doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to use this. So it's important that we have that aspect, and we're always, it's important to me that we're always creating that mind frame and, making sure that they understand the thought process behind self-defense, because it's not just a bunch of techniques.
Right.
It's a way of problem solving.
Yep. Yep.
So
Totally agree.
honestly.
Totally agree. And uh, like yeah, when you hear schools and that don't teach, like I said, don't teach that self defense portion, just that sports aspect of jujitsu. Not saying there's anything wrong with it, but you know, I like the way that we handle our system and stuff because, yeah, I love this sport. I love training it. I love the martial art. I love the science behind it. But yeah, like at the same time, it did teach me how to keep myself calm. Be aware of my surroundings, because if I don't have that focus on what I'm doing and someone punched me in the face, yeah, my jujitsu is gone. Because I was like, I'm not trained. I'm not trained by that. I'm not used to that. So if someone punched me in the face, it's like, oh, okay. Now I'm just gonna curl up because I don't know how to react to this. But the way we train, yeah, we, especially being like the upper belts now, if we're repping this stuff like self defense wise, we're not pulling punches. Like you're at this point where you're brown belt now, or you're purple belt now. Like we're not gonna pull the punch that much. You have to know how to do this. You have to know how to react to this fast. So I've been punched in the face a few times than I've liked, but I was still able to keep myself calm.
Yeah, yeah. And that's all around the board, man. I've seen that in competition jiu-jitsu,
Mm-hmm.
where just, we at the Fight Sports Academy I was at, we practiced a lot of knee on face,
Mm-hmm.
that's knee on face choke, knee on neck choke, stuff like that. And I remember when I had first got my purple belt, and a visiting purple belt came in. He had about 2 or 3 stripes, and competitive style school we were at. So hey, let's see what you about. That's just how it was. So we're rolling, we're having a good match, man. This guy was good, and I ended up getting past his guard, and I'm like, all right, gotta do some work. This guy's been training for a while, and I transitioned to put some pressure on his face with my knee, and I did it, and he was like, and tapped, like really all, like very dramatically, and I was surprised, man. I was like, I didn't even do anything. Like, I didn't apply a submission or anything. And, my coach asked him, he was like, hey, man, you good? Everything good? He was like, yeah, we it just threw me off. We don't do this at we don't ever do this at our academy. And I remember hearing that, and that always stuck with me. And I was like, this is what happens when you don't train realistically,
Yeah.
and you take it easy on your training partners, especially as they go higher level. Uh, Tom DeBlas, he's, we're under the Tom DeBlas flag. Coach Smiley
Mm-hmm.
is my coach is his black belt, and I remember him saying, if you are concerned about in competition, if you're concerned about your opponent's safety, then you're never going to make it to the highest levels of competition. You'll never make it
Hmm.
because, like you said, once you are getting there, purple belt, brown belt, black belt, like your safety isn't my responsibility anymore.
Right.
Like you should be able to defend yourself. You should be able to understand what's dangerous. If we're two black belts going together, I've put a Kimura on and you don't tap and your arm snaps, like you broke your arm, you broke your shoulder. I didn't break your shoulder. You should
Right.
have tapped.
You should have
You
tapped.
should know better.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just the way it is. It's the responsibility of safety changes once you're working with somebody from white belt on up. And as probably at your academy, as someone develops and gets blue belt or purple belt, brown belt, we get tougher on them,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a compliment.
Yeah. Cause
That's
like,
and that's
yeah, like when for example, if people are rolling, if a blue belt is rolling with a white belt, we don't help the blue belt. And if a blue belt is rolling with the purple belt, we don't help the purple belt. And once you get like purple brown, now you're on your own at that point. But it depends. But yeah, we don't like once you get to that certain level, it's like okay, you should know this stuff. You should know you should know what you should look out for, and you should be able to address your mistakes as you go.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's cool, man. What's your team's name again?
my school is called H2O Martial Arts.
H2O martial arts. I
Yep.
like it, like water,
Yes.
like
Yes,
water.
sir. Yes, sir. That is
Have
that
you
is my school.
have you read the Tao Jeet Kune Do, the Bruce Lee
I
book?
have I have not I have not read that book yet.
That's made me think of everybody like water, the H2O, and yeah, but it always makes me think of that book. I remember same boxing buddy of mine, same guy I was talking about in the beginning. He recommended that book to me, and I remember I was like, "Oh shit, I'm about to learn how to fight like Bruce Lee." Oh shit, and I was so excited, man. I got this book, and this was yeah, I had to find this book too. This is before Amazon was all popular, so I found this book, and I opened it up, and I was like, "What the hell, dude?" It was all philosophy
Mhm.
in the first part of the book. Like the first half of the book was all just philosophy and concepts. It didn't give you no instruction about a fight and didn't talk about, what style of punches, nothing. And it threw me off, but I went through it and it was a really, really good read. It's one of those books where you can go through it like every year, and as long as you're progressing in your martial arts journey, you're gonna learn. You're gonna have a different definition of every word as you progress in this journey. It's a really good book. I recommend it to pretty much everybody who really gets into the martial arts journey.
And
Um,
you said and what was the name of the book?
the Tao Jeet Kune Do, Tao of Jeet Kune Do,
Oh,
Tao of
okay.
Jeet Kune Do.
No, okay.
Yeah.
So I was when you was talking about it, I was like, "Ooh, do I have that book?" Because I was about to be mad at myself, but no, I got the one, The Art of Expressing the Human Body. I don't have the Tao of the Jeet Kune Do, so I might have to get that one too.
Ah, nice. I don't have the art of expressing the human body. I have to check that out.
Yeah, it's a very how can I explain it? Because it's kind of like It's not really much about technique like the other book you're referring to, but it was more so like breaking down the human body for in the martial arts, like in different martial arts standpoints.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's a very very good book. So because I've been kind of like on the a book kick as of late. Not necessarily reading them because like my mind would not let me sit down and read a book. So I just been doing like the audio books, and I just
Okay, yeah, that's I'm an audiobook person myself too, man. I'm so dyslexic.
yeah, I'm telling
So,
you, man. So I finished Breathe, the Ricks and Gracie book, which was phenomenal, and I just started Worth Defending by Richard Brasler, which ironically, when I had put this podcast together, I was looking for guests, and somebody had tagged him. Was like, oh, he'll be a good guest. So I reached out to him, and he was like, give me like a little backstory, and he was like, do you know much of he said, do you know who I am? And I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I can't say I have. And then he's like, yeah, I'm this, I'm that, and I wrote a book and blah blah blah. And then when he said it, I was like, hold on. I looked over, and on my shelf was his book. And I was like, oh
mm,
snap! I was like, I got your book. And he's like, have you started reading it? I was like, no, I just literally just got your book like maybe like a week before this conversation happened. So he was like, well, read it, let me know, and then I'll be a guest on your podcast. So yeah, thought that was pretty interesting.
yeah, there's no coincidences in my world. There's no coincidences at all.
No, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, for sure, man. I I look back at everything that I've experienced through my lifetime, and I see it all led me to this point in my life right now. And that whole theory, if you change one thing, what is the butterfly effect? You
Mm-hmm.
change one thing, you won't get the results that you've gotten. And I'm pretty fucking happy with my results, so I don't want to change anything. But I remember my first coach, Carlos Verona. We were really big in Eckhart Tolle and Wayne Dyer. That was some people I used, some tools I used to get over the anxiety. And there's this saying, and it really helped me throughout my accident that I had last year. It's just this too shall pass.
Mm-hmm.
This too shall pass. This is a great saying that I've adopted, and it gets me through the rough lessons, and then it gets me through them with a good perception too. At the end of it, it's like, all right, I'm finished, and now I've become a lot stronger, and I'm able to accomplish more now that I've been through that tough, whatever that tough lesson was.
Yeah.
But a lot of those lessons I wouldn't have been able to make it through if it wasn't for that saying.
Yeah, I feel you on like so many levels on that, dude. Cause I think about that. I think about that a lot sometimes. Like, man, what if I never would have found jujitsu? And just thinking about like when I always tell the story of like how I started jujitsu was the guy my best friend at the time, he was working at GNC, didn't know this guy, never seen this guy. Walked in, talked to him maybe like once or twice. Didn't really care for the attitude. He gonna hate me because I keep saying that. But just fast forward, I just constantly kept going down there, looking just vitamins and whatever because I was getting serious about working out. But yeah, we ended up having a conversation about him training jujitsu, and I was like, oh well, that's cool, And I was like, oh, I always loved martial arts. I always wanted to do one, but never really had the time nor money. And at this time I was working like 6 days a week, and the only days I had off was Sunday, and I just slept. I literally just slept those days. But fast forward, me and him kept talking about it, and everything else. And when I tell you the best decision in my life I've ever made was not listening to myself and actually going to step a foot in that gym.
Man, that's probably the best advice you can give anybody who hasn't been just know. Oh man, I don't think, man, shut up. Don't listen to you. Like,
Yes, sometimes, look, I'm telling you, sometimes you can't listen to yourself.
no, because you ain't been through it yet.
Right,
So you don't know. You
don't
guessing.
know it. You just, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You
you
just
just guessing.
guessing. I
It's your
have,
imagination. I can't. That's the one thing I let all my students know. It's like, listen, your imagination is going to be screaming at you.
mm-hmm.
When you walk in the door, especially you ain't never been through nothing, you've never done any type of martial arts training, it's going to be nothing but your imagination. Because that's all fear is.
Yeah.
Because if you know what's about to happen, you're not fearful. You can plan for it. I use the example. I'm like, okay, if I tell you, all right, I'm a sneak in your house and I'm gonna fuck you up, man. All right, that may exhibit some anxiety. That may get you a little anxious, or you may be fearful because you're creating. Like, when is he gonna do this?
Right.
How
Is
is
he
he gonna
actually
do
gonna
that?
do
Why
it?
is he gonna
Yeah.
do it? Yeah, yeah, exactly. But even if I'm gonna do it, if I tell you, hey, tomorrow at 1:59 a.m., I'm coming through the back door and I'm gonna have on this, that, and the third, and I'm gonna, if I give you all the details of what is gonna happen and I stick to them, now you're not afraid. Now you're planning for it. Now you're prepared. All
Yeah.
right, I got something for this guy. And it's the same thing. Like, we listen to ourselves so much, especially when we don't know or have any experience with what is about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make before starting, and then when they start. I notice a key phrase that someone says, you see it too, like when someone's training, and you see that moment right when they gave up,
Mm-hmm.
like they just kind of gave up, like they lost their hope, they didn't know what to do, and they just kind of and then the match goes downhill from here. I'll ask my guys. I'll be like, "Yo, why'd you stop? Or why'd you stop fighting? Or why'd you stop getting on your side?" And there's two words that it always starts with. It's two words that it always starts with when they give me their reason for what they did.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guess? Can you guess the two words? What do you think?
Oh man. That's what I usually hear, but I don't know. Like it.
And you like, why'd you stop, man? Or why didn't you do this? Or why didn't you get your underhook? And they always start with, I felt. As it always like, oh, I felt like
Yeah.
he was gonna do this, or I felt like I couldn't go anywhere, or I felt like it's always a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And those feelings can stop us from doing a lot. They can kill our hope. They can kill our ambition,
Everything.
our fight. Yeah, our fight. Just, I felt this. Like, well, that wasn't the case though. You may have felt that, but as being the observer, you actually were this far from getting on top. You were like 5 seconds from getting on top if you would have just
Mm-hmm.
kept going. Or you were, 3 seconds from getting to your feet. You would have been able to wrestle. But I hear that a lot. So I've been poking that. I've been pulling that out from my guys a lot. It's like, hey, I felt. If you start with I feel, a lot of times it's probably not true.
Mm-hmm. So 9 times out
It's
of
probably
10, it's
not true.
probably not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And that's something that I come out like kind of struggling to have this conversation with my wife. I know we kind of like not really straying away from jujitsu a little bit, but this is like really really serious, like deep and serious. But she recently got, she recently start back training, like a month ago, and I told her, like, I had this really serious conversation with her. I'm like, okay, at this level, at this point in jiu-jitsu in my life, it's extremely, extremely serious to me. So I need to know if you're going to take this serious, because I don't want you, I don't want to say invade, but I don't want you to invade this world if you're not going to hold on to the ride, because it's going to get wild. So she's like, yeah, she wants to get back in shape. She wants to really train because she misses it, and so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. And, we get to class, and like you said, you can just, you can see it or you can feel when they just give up. And it's like, okay, what happened? And like you said, it's like, oh, I felt like this is, I'm like, no. It wasn't, but, you just can't hold on to that though. Like, fight that feeling, fight that fear, and get back out there and try again. Like, you're not going to get this stuff on the first try. It's, that's impossible. It's the consistency that you have to find in jiu-jitsu, that then, like, once you find that, then you'll be able to do a whole lot more. And yeah, that little fear that you have is going to be gone. Well, it's not going to leave you, but it's going to be more manageable, because I still have that, like, man, I should have, or man, when I felt this, I'm like, yeah, nah, well, you got tapped, get up, let's go, try again.
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah, I like what you said. You don't eliminate fear. You can't eliminate feelings, at all. It's impossible. They're hardwired into us.
Mm-hmm.
We used to always say, feelings are like clouds. Like, you look up, they're one way. You look down for a little bit, you look back up, they're a totally different way.
Mm-hmm.
They're always moving, they're always transforming. And people go crazy trying to fight their feelings, which is just, you're fighting yourself. Those are feelings.
Yeah.
And you can't fight the feelings you're having. You can just be aware of them and not, your feelings aren't you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They're not your actions. You don't have to act on your feelings. And once you just, I find it a lot more freeing when you accept that you have those feelings, and you kind of, it's cool when it's like watching a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Where you can be entertained by it. Sometimes you can learn something from it, but a lot of times, they're not real. Like, it's not real. I love Batman, but I know he's not real. Like, he's not running around. Yeah. So it's the same thing with that, man. Take that energy trying to fight feelings, or even some people feel shame for their feelings. Like, I shouldn't feel this way, or I shouldn't dislike this person, or I shouldn't, it's, you can't control that.
Yeah.
You can't control that. So stop spending energy on things you can't control, and spend that time on things that you can. And then, just like with those clouds, by the time you look back up, things are probably totally different.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this before when it comes to that, that mental game of jiu-jitsu. Like, jiu-jitsu is such a logical thing, is to the point where, like, you can't focus on anything else when you're doing jiu-jitsu, because for one, you're gonna miss a lot of stuff. Two, you're not gonna be able to focus on that and trying to survive.
I'm never thinking about my electricity bill when I'm doing jiu-jitsu. That's for sure.
You can't, man. Like, you can't. like when I tell you, when I get to the gym, my phone is on vibrate. My phone is usually on vibrate and in my bag. Like, I don't want to be distracted by nothing outside of this gym until I get in the car and drive home.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I've been in too many places. Like, I've been into the gym too many times, mind clouded on everything else, and got my ass whooped.
Yeah.
Just like yesterday. Like, I was sick. I was getting over a cold, and I'm like, okay, I'm like, oh man, I gotta get ready for this tournament. I gotta get ready. I gotta get down this weight. I gotta do this and do that and all this stuff. And I got to the gym. I tried my best to get my mind clear, but I just couldn't because I was like, man, I've been off the mats for a week, so I'm like, now I'm focused, like I'm too focused on my breathing, and now I'm getting gassed and I'm being choked out or being beat up because my mind went everywhere else but on that match. So it was like, yeah, it was rough, man. Yesterday was rough.
Yeah, that's the goal, right? To just get to the point where you can stay in the moment.
Yeah.
Because you find once you start, oh man, he passed my guard. If you're thinking about someone past your guard, then you're not in the match because you're not doing something about it. You're
Mm-hmm.
wasting time thinking about it, and that's and then you just start playing this game of catch up. And bro, I feel you. There's been those days. This is like you don't play no radio, you don't do nothing. You just go home, just quiet,
It's quiet.
just thinking like, oh man, oh jeez, yeah, I know the feeling. I
That's
know the
it,
feeling.
man. I just came,
Yeah.
like I literally just came home and just laid down, dog. I was like, I can't even do it, man. I can't even think about what the hell just happened. Like I
No,
got washed.
just accept it, learn the lesson, and just move on. Just move on.
I mean, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I felt good afterwards. Because I was able to get back on the mats. But yeah, man, I guess
Yeah,
it was an ass kicking that I deserved. So
you learn that lesson though, and that's the
yeah,
thing, man. Like you gotta have those good nights and the bad nights. They all make up the whole. And I think those of us who really love jujitsu and value jujitsu gain that love and that value during the hard times.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
maybe not always during, but it's definitely after the hard times.
Oh yeah.
You know,
It's just
because
like,
you're not gonna show up anymore if you don't love it, especially after humbling days like that.
yeah, man. Nah, I'm definitely. I was, got done with that. I was like, yep. I guess this is gonna be Tuesday too, cause I'm I'm going back Tuesday, and I'm going back Thursday. So
Yeah, yeah, it's just like that, man.
yeah.
Present moment reminder.
Oh yeah,
Present
man.
moment reminder.
But
Awesome.
I'm too deep into to quit now, so that's that's not an option.
Bro, I had a buddy of mine. He he'd been training longer than me. Um, he got in, he got a purple belt, had his purple belt for a while, ended up getting his brown belt, and he fucking quit.
Uh
And dude, I didn't know how in the hell you invest that much time into something and then he quit. And I'm like, dude, it didn't make any sense to me. It didn't. And I'm like, bro, you ain't never gonna get a fucking black belt. Like, you're this close? How, man, just train, just train. And bro, that motherfucker didn't. He never got a black belt because unfortunately he ended up dying.
oh no.
Yeah, he ended up dying, and I was just like, that son of a bitch could have died with a black belt, if anything. But
Oh
like, hey,
man.
because that's what trips me out. Because I'll see. You ever seen? And this is, I don't know how popular this is. I used to see it when I was uh, starting in jiu-jitsu, where somebody would start jiu-jitsu and they'd be like a white belt or a blue belt, and then they would, pass, and then they get a promoted to a black belt, like at their burial or their funeral.
No, I've
You ever
never
seen
seen
that?
that. No.
I've seen that. I never understood it. Never understood it, but I've seen it. I don't know.
All right.
It's yeah.
No,
It's like,
that's a new one for me.
yeah. And I get it. Maybe if like guy was a brown belt, he was gonna get his black belt, this summer or something. But I've seen that a couple times. I think they maybe done away with that tradition or like that thing. But I've seen that a couple times, and it always confused me. It always
Yeah,
confused me.
I've never seen that before. Yeah,
Cool,
no.
cool.
That's definitely the first one for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, oh man.
That's good to know. I'm glad that isn't just spread around like it's tradition.
Yeah. If you got any other questions for me, if you got anything else to add, if you got anything coming up in the near future, man, the floor is still yours.
Oh man, no, not really, man. I'm always teaching jujitsu. One thing that has been really big for me. I got in a motorcycle wreck last year, and it gave me the opportunity to take some time from training and kind of look around. I had my head in the jujitsu sand for almost 11 years. So when I looked up, I saw some things that weren't sitting right. So one of the things that's really near and dear to me, we have the Tiger's Eye Community Empowerment Center. Um, it's a nonprofit where we make the connection with Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but the goal is to get young, boys who don't have father figures or strong positive male role models to get them in the academy, but not only to learn jujitsu, but to help guide them and mentor them into different, into manhood. Uh, that's one of the things that's been really driving me lately. So I to anyone listening, look up the Tigers Eye Community Empowerment Center. We are always looking for men to come and mentor some of the youth in our community, and also if you're looking to invest into the youth, you can do that too. So that's been something that's been near and dear to my heart lately that I'm seeing a need for. So yeah, and even if you're not in Florida or in Bunnell, and if you're not in any way able to give to the Tigers Empowerment Center, that's fine. I urge everyone to look around locally and see what good you can do to help mold our future generation of men to so that we have a future generation of men.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I that's amazing, dude. Yeah, so like you said, if you can, if you can, anything obviously will help, but if you can't, just just start one yourself, and that is a
Yeah.
major importance, especially nowadays when our young African American men are dying way before their time, and sometimes that like you said, that guidance is what's needed to drive them on a different path. So we'll definitely keep up
No.
with definitely keep up with that, man. And that's such an awesome thing you're doing there.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. I appreciate you having me on the podcast, man. It's anytime I love to sit down and talk, or maybe even talk about some things that aren't so popular within the jiu-jitsu community. It's very good energy, and I remember when we first crossed paths, you brought some really good energy into the group that we met. I forget what group was it that we're in together.
Uh,
Was it
I
was it the
want
Fanatics group?
no, I wasn't for. Was it Fanatics or was it Never Stop BJJ?
It may have been that one. I don't know. I'm a part of so many.
Yeah, I
I
know, and
don't
yeah,
know.
my list is growing too. But yeah, it was one of those two. But yeah, man, it was definitely an honor to sit down and talk to you, man. I would definitely, yeah, even on a personal level, sit down and chit chat with you some more, man. But especially on this and whatever else, man. So I would definitely love to have you back as well.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it, Lamar.
Yep, and that's the end of today's episode. I would like to thank my guest Cedric for coming on the show. I really hope you enjoyed the tales of some of our experiences. Please go and follow our Facebook and Instagram pages to stay up to date on all future episodes. This has been Talk Your Jits podcast. Keep rolling, keep grinding, and remember, long live Jiu Jitsu. Have a great day. Great day. Great day.